Did you know Disney once canceled a movie that later became one of Netflix's biggest hits ever? Or that one of the greatest fairy tales of all time was all set to be produced when Disney suddenly said,
"No way!"
That's right, most people have no clue, but Disney once tried to turn the classic story of Jack and the Beanstalk into a huge animated feature. The project had everything it needed to become one of the greatest animated films of all time and was given the title Gigantic. Makes sense since Jack and the Beanstalk is kind of a long name for a movie. The idea was officially revealed at D23 in 2015 and would have told the story of Jack, who befriends a giant little girl named Inma. She would have been only 11 years old, but nearly 60 feet tall. The plan was to release the film in 2018. Right in the middle of the hype surrounding Disney hits like Tangled, which had made a big splash a few years earlier. And here's a fun detail. In Zootopia, there's even a knockoff version of the movie among the pirated films Nick's friend is selling, called Giraffic. Over time, the release got pushed back to 2020. But in 2017, Disney dropped the bomb. The project was canceled completely, citing creative differences. Whatever that means. So what's left for us fans of fairy tale adaptations? Just one question. Could this project ever come back to life? It would be amazing. But hang on, this was just one of the films Mickey's house tossed straight into the trash. Stick with us because your mind's about to be blown. Another classic example of Disney pulling the plug, this time from the creators of Zootopia and Inside Out, was Newt, a Pixar movie originally planned for a 2011 release. That's right, it was already on the schedule. The studio had already sunk a lot of money into the project, but one detail changed everything. Someone realized the plot was almost identical to another animated movie coming out from a competitor. And what was the story? Two characters, Newt and Brooke, the last two blue-spotted salamanders on Earth, forced to come together to save their species. But here's the twist. They couldn't stand each other. Sound familiar? Yep, it's basically the same idea as Rio, with Blue and Jewel. The project eventually landed in the hands of Pete Docter, but he dropped it to focus on another movie you definitely know, Inside Out. In the end, Newt just faded into oblivion, taking with it the dream of seeing Newt and Brooke's survival story. Kind of heartbreaking, right? Most people have no idea, but Christmas 2012 was supposed to be magical. At least that was the plan, with Disney set to release a movie completely focused on fantasy, The King of the Elves. The story followed an ordinary older man living in a simple town in the American South who suddenly stumbles upon elves in trouble. These elves were being hunted by a terrifying troll, and when the man helped rescue them, they crowned him their new king. From there, he would embark on a dangerous magical journey to discover what it truly means to be a hero. This movie was based on a fantasy story written in 1953 by famous author Philip K. Dick. It was a very different concept, blending ordinary life with magical beings like a fantasy world popping up right in someone's backyard. Disney first announced the project in 2008, aiming for a 2012 Christmas release in 3D. The chosen directors were Aaron Blaise and Robert Walker, who had also worked on Brother Bear. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. Disney execs decided the story wasn't strong enough yet and shut down the project in 2009. Later, they tried to give it another shot, this time with director Chris Williams, the same guy behind Bolt and later Big Hero 6. The new release date was set for 2013, but despite several rewrites, the story never reached a version that satisfied everyone. In the end, the project was scrapped for good. So in the end, The King of the Elves remained just a dream Disney never finished. But fans still love to imagine what it would have been like to watch an ordinary man rise to become the king of a magical people. And now we've come to a project that many people don't even realize was once in Disney's hands, The Shadow King. The idea came straight from director Henry Selick, the same genius behind Coraline, one of the most iconic stop-motion films of all time. Selick wanted to create Disney's very first stop-motion feature, and the story followed Hap, an orphan with unusually long fingers, always hidden inside oversized sleeves because of his embarrassment. One day he meets a mysterious girl from the shadows who teaches him how to turn his fingers into magical tools that can control puppets and bring them to life. But things spiral out of control when one of these creatures threatens the life of Hap's younger brother, throwing both of them into a battle inside the terrifying world of shadows. That darker tone was exactly why Disney decided to scrap the project, saying it didn't fit the studio's style. Recently, Selick managed to get the rights back and is already negotiating with Netflix. I'm really hoping this goes through because I love when stop motion dives into these darker, more mysterious stories. Another project that could have been amazing was Fraidy Cat, planned as a suspenseful and mystery-driven animation. At the helm would have been John Musker and Ron Clements, the same creative geniuses behind classics like Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, and Moana. The plot focused on Oscar, a super timid cat, and his partner Karina, a fun, energetic cockatoo. The duo would get tangled up in an investigation after a neighborhood pet mysteriously disappears, and everyone starts blaming poor Oscar, believing he must have eaten the animal. To clear his name, the two would set off on a search for the truth, facing plenty of challenges along the way. The release was originally set for 2005, then pushed back to 2009. But Disney execs believed kids wouldn't enjoy a detective-style story with animals as the leads. In the end, they couldn't have been more wrong because the concept of Fraidy Cat ended up inspiring Zootopia, a worldwide hit that combined exactly those same elements, animals plus mystery. That's when you have to wonder, did Disney miss out on a huge opportunity here? And if you're enjoying this journey through the hidden side of the world's biggest animation studio, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next videos. Now let's talk about an animation you've definitely heard of, Nimona. Released in 2023 by Netflix, it instantly became a hit. The story follows a girl who can shapeshift into different animals, and even a massive monster. She ends up helping a knight who is falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit. But what most people don't know is that Nimona almost belonged to Disney. The project started inside Blue Sky Studios, which Disney bought in 2022, but the company scrapped the idea, and that's when Netflix swooped in, grabbed the rights, and finished the production. And it doesn't stop there. There are already rumors that Netflix is considering a sequel, but this time telling a story set before the events of the movie. Now let's talk about a Toy Story idea that almost happened and very few people know about. Toy Story 3: Rescue in Taiwan. It all started back in 2004, when Disney and Pixar were fighting, and Disney wanted to prove it could release the third movie in the saga on its own, without its partner's help. The story would have been completely different from what we saw in theaters. Buzz would have been shipped off to Taiwan for being considered a defective toy, and Andy's toys, led by Woody, would go on a huge journey all the way there to rescue him. The detail here is that the plan was for Buzz to be destroyed and recycled into plastic, but of course Woody and the gang weren't going to let that happen. In 2006, when Disney and Pixar made up, this idea got scrapped, and the original script gave way to the version we all know today. After that, we eventually got the official Toy Story 3, followed by Toy Story 4, and now it's already confirmed that a fifth film in the franchise is on the way. So this Taiwan version will probably never see the light of day, but it's still fun to imagine what it would have been like to watch Woody and his friends travel across the world to save Buzz. To kick this part off, let's talk about a project that could have been very different from anything Disney had ever done. My Peoples. The idea started back in the 90s and was later pushed into the early 2000s. The movie would have been kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but adapted to the United States in the 1940s. Instead of traditional families, it would feature rival families in Texas. And in the middle of all that came the forbidden love between Elgin and Rose. To try and express the love he wasn't allowed to live, Elgin would build magical dolls using simple things like car parts, buckets, brooms, and other everyday objects, and he would give them to Rose. But Rose's father didn't approve of the romance and tried to put an end to it using a magic potion to erase Elgin's memories. Only everything went wrong and the potion spilled onto the dolls, which came to life and began helping the couple. Over time, the production got more and more confusing. Some directors wanted to turn it into live action, while others pushed for animation. Even the potion idea was swapped out for kind-hearted ghosts who communicated through the dolls. The title was even changed to A Few Good Ghosts. In the end, nobody could agree, and in 2005, Disney buried the project for good, along with the friendly little ghosts. Another curious case is Bambi 2, the sequel to the classic released in 1942. The first movie showed the emotional bond between Bambi and his mother, and it was a massive hit, so much so that the idea of a sequel came up right away. But since the world was in the middle of World War II, the project was cancelled. What nobody expected was that the sequel would only come out 63 years and 178 days later, in 2006. That became the biggest gap ever between a Disney classic and its sequel. In Bambi 2, the story revolves around the young deer trying to get closer to his father, the mighty great prince of the forest, and learning to grow up so that one day he could take his place. The movie shows how Bambi evolves from a fragile fawn into someone strong and worthy, ready to be a leader. And even though the wait was ridiculously long, the result turned out really moving and worth watching. To start this part, let's go way back in time to one of the very first animations Disney canceled, Chanticleer. The idea was to set the story in aristocratic France, and the main character would be a rooster named Chanticleer, respected as the leader of the entire farm. That's because all the animals believed the sun only rose when he crowed in the morning. But then a fox named Reynard enters the picture, bringing along a very sinister plan: set up a circus that, in reality, would be used to turn the animals into food. Chanticleer would have to face all that and even duel against one of the fox's helpers, a Spanish fighting rooster named Poco Loco, who would become his rival in an epic showdown. The release had originally been planned for 1940, but World War II completely derailed the project. In the 60s, the studios still tried to bring the project back to life, but the money had to go toward another priority: building the Disney parks. The result? Chanticleer never made it to the big screen and never even got the chance to make the sun rise with his crow. So, which one of these canceled or rejected Disney films surprised you the most? We're leaving 2 amazing videos here for you to keep watching with us. Just click on one of them and stick around.